Thank you for listening to the EW podcast. My name is Eric White. In this episode, I speak with a friend who has asked me to leave him anonymous due to the nature of our conversation. This friend, who I'll call Charles, has worked in the mental health industry for several years, and in this episode, we discuss some of the uglier things he's seen as a professional. Some of the things we talk about include patient brokering and urine sample insurance scams, which are done to the complete harm of patients and ultimately are done just to make a quick buck. Charles is definitely one of the ones fighting the good fight, and he was brought to the mental health industry through his own struggles with mental health. And we touch on the childhood trauma that kind of started it all, up to his opiate addiction and ultimately his healing. So Charles openly discusses all of this, the 12-step program, psychedelics, meditation. These were all major parts to his healing, and we talk on all of them. This episode was equally informative, inspiring, and a little upsetting to me, but I had a great time speaking with Charles, and I think that you'll appreciate his openness. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Charles.
So who am I?
Yeah.
I'm a gentle, loving, worthy man. That's who I am.
And what do you do as a gentle, worthy, loving man?
I try my best to love people unconditionally and live free of judgment of others and try to live in compassion as much as possible.
That's beautiful. It's a good way to start.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're here to talk about mental health, the stigma around mental health, and
Absolutely.
the stigma, kind of the things that happen in the system of mental health that maybe aren't so pretty, that could use some changing.
Absolutely.
So do you want to provide background about your profession and what your role is in mental health?
Sure. Absolutely. I have, a professional background and a personal background, I guess you could say, with mental health. But my professional background really started with actually adolescents in the foster system. So I worked in a group home up here in North County, San Diego. And so for about a year, I was a counselor with, adolescents who may have had parents. A lot of them didn't, but the ones that had parents, their parents were either, strung out or just not able to be a part of their lives. And so I worked with them essentially after school, Monday through Friday, helping them in their house, in their living environment, and counseling them. And then my road, essentially, from there, I was thinking about going back to get my master's in social work and potentially become a therapist. And so I started taking classes towards that, and I found out about a treatment center that treats substance abuse. It's dual diagnosis treatment, and got introduced to the owners there, and essentially just wanted to go there and work part-time while I was working at the group home as well, just to accumulate hours to go towards schooling. But quickly realized that I didn't want to be a therapist anymore. I saw the therapist, I worked with some of them, and it takes a special individual to be a therapist and work with this population all day. It was a lot of energy to take on and to take home with me. And then I kind of saw the business side of things when it came to treatment. And I have a background in business, a degree in business. And so I approached the owners of the treatment center and basically said, I want to do all your business side of stuff. I want to do all your admissions, all your outreach, your business development. And they gave me the job right there. And we're just like, here you go. Very little training, but just kind of had to teach myself. And so now I essentially am the director of business development and admissions for a facility here in San Diego. And I've been with them for about 5 years now. And so I've been working in this field for 5.5, 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned your own personal struggles with mental health that kind of
absolutely
was an interlude between those points.
Really my journey started when I was much younger, when my father was in a horrible car accident and I was 8 years old, and it was a very traumatic experience for me. And what happened was he was in a coma for must have been a couple months, like wasn't fully recovered or back to somewhat himself for at least a year, I would say. And I didn't have a father in my life right then and there, you know, and he was like my hero growing up, and my mom was emotionally unavailable, you know, understandably. She was, you know, a wreck. And my older siblings were kind of partying and going out, and that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to, you know, distance myself from the family right then and there too. Like that was my turning point of going down a bad path. And that, you know, went for a very long time. And I'll just fast forward to, you know, the end of college. Actually, I want to backpedal to high school really quick, because this is the first time I actually sat with a psychiatrist. And so this, basically I was smoking a ton of weed. I was getting in trouble. My parents didn't know what to do with me. So of course they're like, we need to take you to see a psychiatrist. There must be something wrong with you. You must have some sort of mental health diagnosis, something like that. And so I go see this psychiatrist and I sit with him, and right off the bat, he just diagnoses me with ADHD and says, here's some Concerta, here's some Adderall, you know, you're smoking weed because you have ADHD. That must be the reason. And so, of course, I believed him. And of course, Concerta and Adderall is abusable. And so I didn't have a problem with it. Yeah. And so I started, you know, taking that recreationally when I needed it. And so I identified with that diagnosis, though, for many years of my life. And so that's the scary part, is when a psychiatrist like that sits with somebody who's 15, 16, and they diagnose them with some sort of mental health diagnosis, that person's going to identify with that. And I don't believe in that at all today. Today, I don't struggle with ADHD. I don't even think it really is a thing, to be honest, personally. I think that we create new mental health diagnoses every single year. The DSM-5 gets bigger and bigger, specifically for the pharmaceutical companies, is my personal take on it. But anyways, I continued into college and was able to pull my schooling together, barely. But I graduated, but I also graduated now like strung out on opiates. You know, I had a huge opiate addiction and came back to San Diego, just huge opiate addiction, a little bit of heroin use in there as well. And I was just absolutely broken, you know, and after a couple attempts, I finally, you know, decided that I was going to give everything I could to bettering myself, and spent 3 years in the 12-step rooms, you know, which were great. I'm always grateful for what they did for me. They essentially helped me grow up. And, you know, I was abstinent for 3 years. And so I completely had this revolutionary change in the work I did in there. But when I came to 3 years, I basically didn't identify with what they were telling me anymore, that I was always going to be a sick individual, that I was always going to be a diseased individual. I didn't jive with that anymore, and I couldn't get on board with it. You know, when I first went in there at 22, 23, I'm going to believe whatever you tell me just because I don't want to feel the pain of this addiction anymore. So you sit here and you tell me I'm an alcoholic and I'm always going to be diseased. By all means, I agree with you. I don't care. Just help me stop doing dope, right? And so I gave, you know, I fell into it for 3 years, and I was really into it, and it was great. And like I said, I'm fully grateful for what they did for me. But then I started to seek outside the rooms of 12-step rooms, and started meeting with doing like Native American style traditions, men's retreats, different workshops, meeting with different mentors outside of that arena, and came to see that I'm not a diseased individual. That my truth is that I am perfectly fine with who I am. And I don't need opiates. I don't need that shit anymore to function in life. And I left. And, you know, today I'll have drinks and I'll go out and stuff like that. But it's been 3 years and nothing bad has happened to me since. And did a lot of work to get there, you know? Yeah. It's kind of a long-winded journey right there.
No, thank you for sharing. Yeah. I'm happy that you made it through and you're here sitting with me for sure.
Yeah, me too.
It's interesting. Why do you think that Western medicine or the Western world is so eager to just not really deal with the true problems of like mental health and what's going on? Because like you said, whenever you're in high school, they prescribed you to a drug, you know, it's just here's a drug. And then later through the 12-step program, they just want to tell you that, no, you're a sick individual. You'll always be like this. It doesn't seem like there's a belief in the system that people can actually be changed.
People can recover and change and heal. Yeah, I think it's due to a couple things. I know for sure with like adolescents, right, when they're younger and the families just want an answer, right? So the minute a doctor says, "Oh, well, Johnny has bipolar disorder. That's why he's all up and down and all over the place." Parents are so relieved. They're like, now we know it's bipolar. It's not us. It's not the family system, right? We don't want to take a look at the way we raised our child, or, the traumas we may have put our children through in the household, or take a look at what other traumas they've gone through in their life. It's bipolar. Great. Now we can put a Band-Aid on it. We can prescribe medication. The doctor's happy because the family's happy, and the prescription companies are making a ton of money. And that's what it really comes down to is pharmaceuticals. A big, like I said earlier, the DSM-5 used to be like that big, like an inch, and now it's like 3 inches thick. And they literally, like, you can look in the DSM-5 today, anybody listening, you, myself, and you can find a diagnosis that will fit you. Doesn't matter. You can find a diagnosis and you can find a pill that will be prescribed to you to fix that diagnosis.
It's like the mental health WebMD.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. And Eastern medicine is just foreign to Westerners. They're afraid of it, right? It's not what they've been brainwashed with their entire life, right? And so, for instance, when I left the rooms of the...
Can you just keep this close?
Oh, yeah. When I left the 12-step rooms... a lot of the, and I still have some really close friends from those rooms who have stuck around and like been, right by my side and love me for who I am. But a lot of the people in there were just like, oh, he's going to be dead in a gutter tomorrow. Like she's going to be in TJ in a gutter dead. Well, that's not the case. I'm actually achieving a lot of my dreams and I'm happier than I've ever been. You know what I mean? But like it's so foreign to them, someone able to leave and be successful. And so when they saw that, now that it's been 3 years, those same people come to me and they're just like, oh, maybe I was just envious. Maybe I don't know. Like, we're super stoked for you. But at first, like, they have this belief system that's so ingrained in them that it's not possible. Mm-hmm. And, for some people, it may not be, right? Some people may need that every single day of their life, the rest of their life, and so be it. But a lot of those people that are in there for so long don't actually explore outside the box for other ways to recover.
Mm-hmm. It almost becomes like a conditioning.
It's conditioned, right? And they're so closed-minded that this is the way, this is the only way. There's no other way to find fulfillment and happiness. If you don't follow this way, you're fucked. Mm-hmm. And that's so wrong, in my opinion.
Do you see any sort of shift happening? I've had
yes, actually,
my therapist on, Susanna Muller, to talk about brain spotting, and there's EMDR.
Right.
Is there a shift happening where people are starting to turn to these other modalities first before prescribing meds, or is it still medication first and then we'll deal with everything else kind of situation?
In my experience in the realm that I work in, and really mine is mainly substance abuse, but most people coming in for substance abuse treatment have some sort of diagnosis, but usually depression or anxiety. Just goes in line with everybody that comes into treatment. And the case is like, and I'll dive into this, it's kind of a long-winded answer, but people come into, say, like a detox and residential treatment, right? And they've been using heroin for the last 3 years. The minute, a week after they're done using heroin, they've gotten through detox, it's been 10 days, they go into their residential, they see a psychiatrist, and now the psychiatrist is diagnosing them with some sort of mental health. Now, of course, this fucking guy is going to be depressed and sad and anxious. He's 10 days off heroin, which he's been addicted to for 3 years. What do you expect? So it actually takes 3 to 4 months for our brains to fully recover from the substance abuse. And so you can't accurately diagnose somebody until they've been free from those substances for 90 days, 4 months. But here they're slapping on a diagnosis right off the bat. One, to medicate them and keep them as tranquil as possible while they're in the facility. Two, insurance plays a huge part to play in this as well, because essentially insurance is dictating the length of stay for any individual to be in treatment, right? And so these therapists are fighting tooth and nail to keep these clients in treatment as long as possible so that they can receive the help they need. Insurance wants them to be medicated. Insurance will authorize more treatment for an individual if they're on medication. So they're prescribing not only to keep them in treatment, for a lot of these facilities just want to make money, right? And so the longer they're in treatment, the more they're getting paid out on days they're in treatment. And so, as you know, if the insurance comes back and says, oh, are they on, Depakote? Are they on a mood stabilizer? Are they on anti-craving medication? Immediately they turn to it, so they get more time in treatment, they get more money. It's a giant fucking game.
Mm-hmm. Is the insurance are the insurance companies fighting to shorten the days?
Yes.
So it's a battle.
Yes,
between
it's a
the
battle.
Exactly.
Wow. Battle between the clinicians and the insurance companies. Insurance companies want to do whatever they can not to cover treatment because they don't want to pay money at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's a constant battle back and forth between the insurance company and the provider. And they want to see them on medications because if you go to the top of the pyramid here, the pharmaceutical companies are making bank, mm-hmm. and they're in bed with the insurance companies and all the politicians and stuff like that, And so it's really a money game at the end of the day, I think, medication.
Do you also think it has to do with people just wanting the easy route, the easy fix? As a doctor, you want to fix your patient, like you said. You want to, see your patient become healthier as a result of your help. So if medication is a quick fix to do that, you want to do that. But however, as a patient, you're struggling in pain and they're telling you that there's this drug that can help you. So it's just like, oh, forget it. I'm just going to take this drug.
Well, I think a lot of the times the patient believes the doctor, right? Of course, I'm going to believe this guy. He's got his doctorate. He's an MD. He's telling me that this is going to help me. So of course, it's like me going to the rooms. Like I'm going to believe whatever you tell me because like I just trust. Like I should trust you, right? Mm-hmm. Like we have this belief that we should trust doctors and psychiatrists and their professional opinion. And so a lot of people don't advocate for themselves, which is a big thing. If you're listening and you've been to like a treatment before for mental health, substance abuse, like fucking advocate for yourself when you're in there. Like don't just pop pills because they tell you to. A lot of people just do it because they want to believe.
Speaking from my own experience with inpatient, I was there for like close to a week. It wasn't a very long stay, but long enough to remember.
Yeah.
They immediately make you feel stripped down and like you are completely dependent on them. They took my shoelaces. They removed the person who took me there. They separated me. They took everything I had on me at the moment. And so then you're in there scared and you're kind of dependent on this person, and it creates a situation where, like you said, you just believe what they say and it becomes hard to advocate for you. I didn't feel like I had any advocacy on my behalf while I was in there at all.
Right.
And I don't even know how I would have started to vouch for myself in that state, honestly, feeling so alone and so just, you can only call people.
Yeah, it's really difficult. You're in a very vulnerable state. And so it's really hard to advocate for yourself, but know that you have rights and that you can advocate for yourself. And look, some people may need medication too. I'm not somebody that says medication is all bad. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But I think that in today's day, like we overprescribe big time. Like when I was working at the group home with these kids, I'm working with like 9-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old who's taking like 6 to 7 different pills a day, a mood stabilizer, then they're taking Wellbutrin, but they're going to give them Abilify to help boost the Wellbutrin, Depakote, antipsychotics. And it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? This poor child isn't even fully developed yet. And look what you're doing to them. When a lot of this probably stems back to just anger of not having a family, like instead of putting them on 6 different medications, like someone needs to mentor this kid and be there for him in his life and just love on him. Like, that's it.
What was the switching point for you in your recovery? Did you get, I know that you were diagnosed with ADHD whenever you were younger.
I was actually diagnosed with bipolar too. Okay. I was one of those people who, when I went into, I tell that heroin story because when I went into my treatment center, which is great. It stuck from then. I'll have 6 years off opiates in May.
Nice.
Thank you. But I see the psychiatrist out of detox, and I sit with her for like 15 minutes. She could barely speak English. Granted, this place got shut down. It was shady. And she goes, "Oh yeah, you're manic depressive bipolar. Here's Depakote." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And I started taking the meds initially, but I was just like, this doesn't feel right. And then I just started advocating for myself. I denied all medications from there on out.
They can't deny you medical service?
No, that's my right to deny my medication. If you can never force me to take medication. I can refuse medication all day long. And so, and today I don't need any medication for anything. I'm not bipolar. I'm not manic depressive. I don't have ADHD. I function just fine in society.
You mentioned retreats, various things like that. Was there one in particular that kind of flipped the switch for you, or was it a gradual?
Really, what flipped the switch for me early on was meditation. So really getting into meditation, which I actually have kind of fallen away from lately, which is something that I'm trying to get back into through yoga. But I used to do a lot of sitting meditation. And this is a really cool story, actually. This guy, Rusty, I'll never forget Rusty, and I still need to talk to him and catch up with him. But he really showed me the spiritual way of life, right? That outside of just what 12 steps were telling me. And basically, I go on this surf trip, and this is like 90 days clean off heroin, right? And I go on this surf trip down to Baja, and I was reading this book by Noah Levine. Noah Levine, he wrote Dharma Punks. And Noah Levine's big in the substance abuse industry as well. He has a treatment center, but really, really awesome book. And it just tells his story of living in Santa Cruz and going through his addictions and then finding Buddhism and finding meditation and practicing that. And so I read his book and I finished it down there, and I was in Scorpion Bay down in Baja. It was beautiful. And there was this guy with me who was just an angry motherfucker. Like he's just an angry dude, struggled with anger. And I started like meditating around him to try to get past like feeling all that negativity. And I started practicing meditation down there, and I would sit for 5 and then sit for 10, 15 minutes. And I was noticing a huge calming effect in myself and not being affected by his negative energy. And so I was like, wow, there's really something to this meditation and something to maybe Buddhism that I'd really like to, follow up on and really explore. And the day I get back from this trip, I go to a meeting, and I see this guy, Rusty. And I knew Rusty was into Buddhism. I knew he was into meditation. And so I approach him. And this guy sounds like the turtle from Finding Nemo, just like totally burnt. Like any passerby, I'd be like, this guy's burnt a few cells, right? But I was like, dude, I love this guy for some reason. I started talking to him. I was like, I really want to get into meditation. I really want to start looking into Buddhism. And he's like, come to my house on Wednesday night. I have a meditation group. I'll introduce you. Boom, I start going to this guy's house weekly. He starts teaching me meditation, starts showing me different teachers like Sadhguru is an example of some guy that he showed me out of India. And he started really showing me Eastern style practices. We started meditating together. He started taking me up to Deer Park Monastery up in Escondido, which is Thich Nhat Hanh's monastery. Thich Nhat Hanh's a famous Buddhist teacher. Unfortunately, he had a stroke like 2 or 3 years ago, so he can't teach anymore. But he has a monastery up in Escondido, and I would go up there for days of mindfulness with Rusty, and he would take me up there. I would practice walking meditation, sitting meditation, eating meditation, and then I just got so turned on to this Eastern style practice. And so that was like the big turn for me was that meditation practice and learning Eastern style traditions and reading books by Thich Nhat Hanh and other teachers that would really change my perception of life. That completely molded my perception of life today and helped me to get out of those old thought patterns. Was really just meditation and reading and like practicing what I read in my daily life. Mm-hmm. And I continued that for a while. And then I started doing like sweat lodges and going and meeting with like Native American elder people and other mentors that really dive deep and crack your ass open. It's not just generic sit down, let's talk. Like they're taking you to your inner child. They're doing meditations with you, cracking that inner child open, looking at your traumas. And I started to jive with that way more than I did this traditional 12-step stuff that I was doing. And then I met a guy who had mentioned psychedelics as a form of healing. And just to quickly answer the question you started with is like, are we seeing a shift in Western style treatment? Absolutely. They're using psychedelics now to treat depression, anxiety, alcoholism, and they're getting amazing results. They're using psilocybin to treat our war vets that are coming back, and they're showing great results. They're using ketamine treatments now to treat people who are chronically depressed, who cannot get anything out of traditional talk therapy. And they're seeing people come in. I know a facility here in San Diego that's using ketamine treatments, and you have a guy that comes in, a young man who hasn't smiled in like 2 years, do like 2 ketamine treatments, and he's fucking laughing and having a blast. Like, that is the shift I'm seeing. Like, we are going through a shift, and I don't know if we'll ever see it become fully legal in our treatment system while in this lifetime. But yes, we are definitely going through a shift, and a shift in consciousness for sure. And so anyways, back to my experience with it. I started exploring it a little bit, and I didn't, right when he told me that, I went back to my old way of thinking. If I ingest something, I'm going to die. I'm going to start doing heroin again. Like everyone's told me I can't do this. So I reflected on it for like 6 months. And so my first experience was, actually on my 3-year birthday. I was ready, and I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to explore this. And I went up to Big Sur, and I went into the mountains, and I took LSD, and I was with my closest friend, and it was just he and I sat there by a riverbank and just absolutely reflected on everything I had done over the last 3 years in my past life. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And I did ayahuasca as well. I went and did an ayahuasca retreat, which really helped with my past traumas. When I was 8, when I saw my dad in the hospital and fainted because it was too gruesome for me to look at, like, that's kind of haunted me my whole life. And through this experience, I confronted my 8-year-old self. I walked him up to the bed, stood there by him, supported him through the experience, and basically told, like, I'm here to love on you and nurture you, and I'll continue to revisit you. Yeah. And I felt like I was wrapped in the womb for 6 hours, like the biggest hug I've ever been given in my entire life. And that in itself completely changed my perceptions on God too, and my creator. Like, I feel way closer to my creator today than I ever have been. And whatever that looks like to you, but to me, that's like, I personally can't really deny that there's a creator, there's some God, there's some energy out there. Through my experiences, I've felt it. I feel like I've seen it almost. And so that really connected me with spirit. And the rest is history. It's like, I don't just sit here and condone this for anybody either. You know what I mean? Everyone's truth is different. Everybody's journey is different. I don't suggest anybody going through what I may have gone through back in the day do this. You're going to come to your own truth and your own decision. I'm not going to sit here and condone it or advertise it or anything like that.
Had you experimented with psychedelics before this experience?
Yeah, I had. Not to an extent though. I did mushrooms like one time with some of my best friends. Mikey was one of them up in college. It was like I think I was like 19, 20, and it was my first time ever taking mushrooms, and I had a really amazing experience with those. And that's really about it, other than going to like, I never really did psychedelics that much. I did mushrooms, and I did, MDMA sometimes as well, but that was in like more of a party scene, right? And you're not going to get the benefits out of it. Like,
out of my own curiosity, from my own experience, I was wondering if that trauma of that you mentioned of seeing your father in the hospital bed, was that something that you had repressed and that you came back to as being significant, or was that something you've carried with you?
No, it's something that I repressed, like pushed down for sure, suppressed it, and like never really looked at it ever. My relationship with my parents since 8 till about 22, 23 was just really horrible. I was an asshole. I treated them like shit. My relationship with my parents today is like phenomenal. Like, I love them so much, and we have such a good relationship, and they're such amazing people, and they always were. I just chose not to see it in whatever destructive behaviors I was going through, and you know, I think I resented them over those years. You know, I didn't have my dad, like my mom wasn't there emotionally, you know, so like I think underlying I really resented them a lot and struggled with that trauma, but just didn't know what it was or how to look at it. Wasn't even willing to look at it. And so the first time I really explored that was on one of those men's retreats too. I don't only just go take psychedelics. I actually do men's retreats as well and try to connect, and somebody took me through an inner child meditation and really helped me to see that trauma of not having my father in my life during those years, and helped me to like walk through that for sure.
Was that something that you had to address with your parents as well and rebuild with them, or was that something that you could just figure out on your own and then take the positive effects to your relationship?
No, I spoke about it with my parents, right? Yeah. Like I didn't need an explanation from them or anything like that, but I was excited to know that I had done this work and like what I had revealed. And so, you know, I talked to my mom about it because basically it happened December 21st. And so Christmas, the Christmas was right around the corner. But my mom was like, look, your dad's too mangled right now. Like they sent me away for that Christmas. And all I wanted to do is be with my family in that time of crisis. Why would you send me away? Like more than anything right now, I need you to support me. And they sent me away to a cousin's house. And like, I think that like I've really dialed it down to me being sent away was like, well, fuck you guys. If that's how you feel, then I don't really want to be a part of this family.
It was like they turned their back on you.
Right. And non-intentionally, like I talked to my mom about this and she's like, you're totally right. Like I shouldn't have probably done that, but she didn't know better. I mean, I can only imagine what was going through her head at the time.
Yeah. Jay Wick and I talked about that in our conversation about how parents are just doing the best that they can with the information that they have at the time. And, you know, as children, you know, we grow up and have the benefit of hindsight, looking back and trying to understand what the fuck happened.
Right. And so exactly right. They're doing the best they can with the information they have, which is every single person that walks this planet. Yeah. That's a great statement. Yeah, which Jay took from John Donovan, who's was one of my mentors that really, you know, that I really leaned on in the recent years for sure. He's an amazing human. And side note, I actually asked him today if he would come on your podcast. Oh, and really? So nice. He's down.
Sweet.
Yeah,
well, thanks for that.
That'll be an exciting one for sure. Cool. He's a very special human.
I was actually going to ask you if you had any recommendations.
Absolutely. I already asked him.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Wanted to come prepared with a referral, you know?
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do you think that the better way to do to deal with children who are struggling with depression and anxiety would be family counseling?
Absolutely. Totally. I really do. I think that and incorporating, like I've already seen people incorporating meditation in like second and third grade classes, you know?
Yeah. Are you familiar with Sam Harris at all? I feel like I mention him every podcast somehow, but he's a really interesting guy who has a podcast. He's a neuroscientist and philosopher, but his wife, her like life's goal is teaching young children meditation. Yeah. And she just says that you underestimate how young a child can be to pick up the basic practice of it.
Right. And the child just wants to be heard, I think, at the end of the day, and supported and loved. And, you know, I don't have any children of my own, but I can tell you this. I've been hanging out with a 4-year-old once a week for the last like few weeks, and I'm going to continue to hang out with this 4-year-old for a long time, I think. And it's not an easy chore, man. Like being responsible for a child, it's not easy, right? And so I think parents get tired and they don't want to take the time to sit with that child and really get to know what's going on deep inside. And so what do they know to do is, you know, the next door neighbor referred them to the psychiatrist. Let's take them there. There must be something wrong, and that's it. Yeah. But like, I just want to touch on what I said earlier too, is that people identify with their diagnosis. So now this child is always going to identify as being bipolar or being depressed or being ADHD. And so they're going to continually wake up now every day and say, I'm bipolar. I'm bipolar. And so the more that you set that intention into your life, the more you're going to manifest that in your life, right?
Yeah.
So now this child's waking up every day, setting the intention into the universe that I have ADHD. And now I'm going to be hyperactive because I just told myself I have ADHD and I must. So, and then it manifests in his life. Mm-hmm. It's like with other physical ailments and other medical conditions, right? The power of the mind is fucking strong, right? And so you set that intention, that's what you're going to manifest in your life. And so I really think that I don't think we should diagnose children, especially.
Yeah.
Adults, maybe a different story. Like I said, I think medication's appropriate for some people. But I think that we're being lazy about it and we're not trying to incorporate other holistic methods. I think we're just going straight to the prescription, which is all bad. We consume, at least when it comes to opiates, we consume I think we consume more than half of the entire world's opiate consumption just in the US. That's absolutely ridiculous. And interesting theory around this is that we're very spiritually sick individuals. And so I heard this guy speak one time, and I can't remember his name, but this always stuck with me, is that we consume these opiates because it's not an external pain that we're not using the opiate for a toothache or a broken leg. We're using it for a spiritual sickness because we're spiritually in so much pain.
We've begun idolizing the wrong things.
Maybe I just, whatever it is, like we're just a very spiritually sick place. And so we consume so many pharmaceuticals.
To kind of tie a couple ends together here, we mentioned that the shift is happening. Psychedelics and things are starting to be more incorporated.
Not just like, meditation, Eastern style tradition, sound healing. Like, we incorporate a lot of like sound healing meditation, acupuncture, all that sort of Eastern style stuff is being incorporated now. And so
in the medical setting, is the more spiritual side of these modalities, these things are being used to help treat people for depression and anxiety.
Right.
Is the spiritual side of them as well being accepted and encouraged? Does that make sense? Like, but transcending yourself,
sure. And everyone's going to feel that differently though. You know what I mean? So I don't think there's just one, someone who comes out of one of these experiences and just sits there and contemplates just contemplates the experience, however the experience it was, whether it was pleasant or unpleasant. They're sitting there, they're working through it, they're reflecting on it, they're, dissecting it. Like, that's the spiritual side of it.
Yeah.
Right. I think if, when we go out and like we're partying and you may use these things at like, you go to a music festival or whatever, and you're just partying on them. I don't think that they're being used in a spiritual setting, and I don't think they're properly being used, but I think anytime someone actually has the intention of using them to heal, they're incorporating the spiritual side of it.
Gotcha.
I guess too, when it comes to seeking, treatment and stuff like that, if anyone's listening, like, really do your research around it. There's a lot of shady people out there that are taking huge advantage of individuals today.
Do you deal a lot with that in your line of work? I guess you're looking for patients for your own treatment center. So.
Right. So it's a lot of networking with other facilities, but in my time doing this, I've come in contact with some really shady people.
How prevalent is...
It's huge. It's big. Orange County is number one in the country for just being the most shady place. This treatment has a horrible name. And I'll be the first to tell you that treatment in America is a giant failure. It is. We're failing miserably. Unfortunately, like if you look at Portugal is really interesting because they decriminalized all drugs, right? Mm-hmm. And they're really into harm reduction. So they provide safe injection sites for maybe a heroin addict, right? But they decriminalized all drugs. And in doing so, their opiate use went down tremendously. It cut the percentage of heroin addicts. Canada is offering, free healthcare essentially. But I mean, anybody up there struggling with addiction is going to be able to get help. Here, you either have to be wealthy or have good insurance, right? Otherwise, you're going to go to some county-funded rehab and get some shit treatment. And not all of it shit, but most county-funded places are going to be some shit treatment. But we're still stuck in this one-track mind of what we think people need to recover from addiction. And we impose that on them when they come in. And if it doesn't work for them, then it's like, try again. Try again. Like, you're fucked, you know? And so I just think whatever we're doing is a giant failure. We really need to rethink the way that we're treating addiction and mental health.
Can the mental health system thrive in a capitalist society? Is that?
Oh, are you kidding me? Like, it's thriving. It's thriving now.
I mean, thrive for the patient, not thrive in terms of making money for itself. But are the changes necessary, possible in a capitalist society?
That's a good question, and I don't know. Probably not right now. I think eventually, sure. Like I said, we have a shift going there. But like, if you wanted to start utilizing certain Eastern style traditions that Western style doesn't see as evidence-based, right? Like, insurance is only going to cover evidence-based practices. And there's a lot of stuff out there that may not be evidence-based, and I don't know who's defining evidence-based at this time, but that work really well. But if you incorporate it in your treatment, insurance won't pay for it. So you can't afford to incorporate it in your treatment because you're not going to get paid. You're not going to get reimbursements on it. You're not going to get the money you need to sustain the facility to continue to treat clients. And so, but the thing about treatment is that it's a big money business, or it was a big money business. Especially, this is just some of the shady stuff that was going on with treatment centers, but it was called like the gold rush. And so treatment centers would make a ton of money off pee. And so they would bring these people into treatment, and then they would drug test them every single day. And it's completely unnecessary to collect a urine sample every single day. That's just completely absurd. And then they would send them, to the labs, and then the labs would bill out $3,000 per pee test. And think about if you have 60 clients and you're billing out $3,000 for each client a day just for their pee, the amount of money that you're bringing in. And so these labs are getting in bed with treatment centers and paying them kickbacks. And so labs were paying, like, we got approached one time years ago by a lab that said, hey, we'll give you $20,000 a month just to use us as your lab. And we're like, get the fuck out of the office. But like, that's just one thing. And then insurance companies caught on to it. And so they saw the insurance fraud happening. And then a lot of these places too will open up their own labs under a different LLC or a different name, because it's not ethical. And I don't even really think illegal at this point to own your own lab and have a treatment center. So they would collect the pee, run it through their lab. So they're getting all the reimbursements from that. Wow. And so people were just making an arm. Racket, oh, it's a racket. So people were just all about piss. And so clients would be like, it'd be funny. I'd hear individuals be like, oh, this guy's being so nice to me. He's letting me stay in the treatment for 6 months. He's scholarshiping me the last 3 months. But I was like, how many times do you have you come into UA? 3 times a week? Exactly. He's making a ton of money off your piss. And so he's not doing anything nice for you and scholarshiping you. He's making money off you. And they don't know this, and patients don't know. Like, more and more clients are becoming aware of what the treatment game now, but I mean, that's pretty much over. Insurance caught on. Insurance basically stopped and it sucks because there's a lot of good people out there offering good treatment, and these bad players completely ruined it for everybody. And so treatment centers are just like, fuck it, we're not going to pay any treatment centers now. Reimbursement rates are at like 20% of what you bill out. So like these mom and pops that were offering really, really good treatment are shutting down because they're not making the money they need to sustain their facility. And these big corporate facilities, a lot of these big corporate treatment centers are funded by bankers on Wall Street. And so it's like, they don't care about fucking addiction. They don't give a fuck if you're getting healthy. They just want to know how many beds they can fill and how much money they can make. There are some publicly traded treatment centers. There's rumor that there's one owned by the Russian mob because they make so much fucking money off of it, right? And so It's ridiculous. It's been a really dirty playing field for a long time, but they're making some big strides to clean it up. Like bad players are shutting down. I know of like 4 or 5 that shut down that were really bad players. Insurance is really cracking down now. The P game's done. What's still prevalent is what's called patient brokering. And so facilities this is big in Orange County, facilities will hire a marketer, right? Mm-hmm. And that marketer's job is to go find a vulnerable addict at maybe an AA meeting or a Starbucks and basically kind of get to know them. And they're looking for people who are currently using or fresh, who would be probably willing to relapse. And they say, hey, like, check it out. You got insurance? Great. I'll pay you $1,000 and I'll give you a free bag of heroin so you can go get high right now, but you have to go to this treatment center to get treatment. And then the treatment center pays that marketer usually around $4,000 to $5,000 a head. So that marketer just got paid $5,000 for finding a vulnerable addict, getting them high, and then sending them to that treatment center because the treatment center knows they're going to bankroll off their insurance. And then they'll stay there for 2 weeks, and the marketer will come back into that treatment center. I'll be like, all right, check it out. Let's do this again. I'm going to give you another $1,000 and give you a bag, but now we're going into this treatment center. And they just hop all over treatment center to treatment center. And the homeless population in Orange County has skyrocketed because they're flying all these patients out. Once their insurance is done, they kick them out of the facility and say, good luck getting home.
Is that not illegal? Like,
it's completely illegal.
So
absolutely.
Are any of these guys being brought to justice?
Yeah, so it was really big in South Florida. That's where it started. And then pretty much a lot of it stopped. It's pretty much a lot of people got put in jail. It's cleaned up quite a bit from my understanding, but now it's really prevalent in Orange County. It just moved out here. But yeah, if you get caught, it's considered human trafficking if you bring somebody over state lines. So if I knew of a guy that was in Arizona and called him on the phone and said, hey, I'll pay you to come out here, and then I get paid for him to come out here, that's human trafficking. You'll charge with human trafficking. And so these are just the scumbags in our industry. And and it's so funny, like, when it got out that I left like the rooms or whatever, and I went on my own path and I started experimenting with these sorts of medicines or whatever you want to call it. The rooms was
your treatment center.
Well, no, not necessarily like other treatment centers. Cause I have this job. Right. And like, it's kind of hard for me to speak out on this cause who knows what could happen, but fuck it. People were like, oh dude, fuck that guy. Fuck that. Like I got a lot of judgment in the beginning. I don't anymore. I feel like I have a pretty well respected name in what I do and I have a good group, but it's like, why are you judging me for going on a retreat and having this ayahuasca experience that revolutionized my life? And yeah, you may be abstinent from alcohol and drugs, but you're a shady scumbag who's paying to broker patients. Fuck all you. Like, fuck your judgments and fuck you, you're a piece of shit.
I just can't even understand in what world that seems like a good idea to somebody to do.
Well, money seduces, and these guys that they get are usually to go find these patients are usually like new in recovery themselves. And think about it. I'm new in recovery. I don't have much money. Mom and dad are fed up with me, but I can make an easy $5,000 if I just go find, and I'm probably immersed in the recovery community. I probably know a ton of guys that are probably struggling right now that I could go get high and send, and that's an easy $5,000 for sure. Like, fuck it, let's do it. It's easy to seduce someone into doing that. Easy. And then they get $5,000 and they get 10. They're like, I just made $10,000 in a month. Are you kidding me? Well, let's fucking do this. Game on, right? I think there needs to be treatment centers specifically for patient brokers, for people not only who have been brokered, but who have been used to find the patients. Because I've actually met a couple who stopped doing it and they feel horrible. They're like going through it. They're like, dude, I got seduced. I did this. I know it was wrong. And now I feel like shit and I want to make it right in some way. Right. I feel like they need like specific treatment for people that have been brokered or brokers themselves.
Yeah, it's
honestly. So it's just like, who are you to judge me for my growing spiritually in the way that I feel right for me when you guys are just all a bunch of scumbags. It's like, it's ridiculous.
How does that change? How is it just a matter of taking their patients away from them, doing a better job of recruiting?
So people will report them to like DHS, like the Department of Healthcare Services, DHS. Yeah, you report them. I mean, there's only, and then like the DAs get involved, right? And then they get put away for sure. Like people are getting put away. They're getting put in jail. Like, I don't know if you saw like this thing about Chris Batham or whatever, the rehab mogul. He got put away for sure.
Oh, wasn't that the
he was like
special?
Yeah, he was like sleep. Well, that was Cliffside Malibu, but
okay.
that guy doesn't own Cliffside Malibu anymore. Cliffside Malibu got bought out by like a pretty good company, and I think they do good work now. But no. This rehab mogul guy was like sleeping with his patients and getting them high and shit. Like our industry has a horrible name, and it's really sad because there are good places that do really good work. And this is why I've stayed with the place that I represent for so long, because I love the work that we do, man. Like we're really outside of the box, holistic, like deep trauma work, deep personal growth I see these men and women go through, and I do get to see these lives change. I do see some, like the success stories I see keep me going in it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But there's been a lot of days where I'm just like, dude, what's next? I'm over this shit. If I have to go to another conference and shake hands with this guy, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Is that something whenever you're dealing with potential patients that you actively have to warn them against and kind of, have them set their guard up? Is these other people coming in and trying to broker them?
Yeah. So I've actually worked, I can think of a specific example, working with a mother who, their child was supposed to come to us, and then basically this guy goes into the detox and tells him like, hey, I'll pay you to do this. And so I had to tell the mom exactly what was going on and educate her on it. And parents don't know this shit. They shouldn't have to know this. They shouldn't have to worry about this. And so now the industry and as a whole, mental health substance abuse treatment just has a really horrible name. And it's sad for the people that do good work. And so now, a family Googles treatment or something like that, like, hey, loved one needs treatment. Well, the first articles that are going to come up are probably Orange County, another patient broker, this or that. So
what is the best way for someone who needs a treatment center like that to find one that is going to do
really go through a professional, right? Like really go, I would always lean on private practice clinicians, right? Like that you maybe find a therapist that you can really trust, that you started working with, maybe that can refer you out to a quality treatment center. I would say private practice clinicians, but also just don't just search and settle for the first treatment center.
Is the internet dangerous?
The internet can be very dangerous, right? Because a lot of these facilities hijack other people's websites too. And so these call centers, like you see the doctor. All right, so here's a perfect example. So these families, backtrack, find a professional in the industry that you can hopefully trust and count on. There's ed consultants. Ed consultants are a good way to go. These are people who specifically are hired by families to help them find quality treatment. And these ed consultants, all they do is travel and visit treatment centers and vet them.
So it's like a reverse broker.
Right, but like you're not, but like the family is paying for their services. The treatment center is not paying.
Right, that's what I mean.
That's where it becomes, it's a reverse, like, hey, I'm going to pay you this extra money because I know that you vetted these facilities and you can place my child in the best possible treatment for what they're going through at this time. Ed consultants, private practice clinicians, stay away from call centers. So like you see that guy come on in the white coat on TV and he's like, are you struggling with drug addiction? Here's 1-800 blah, 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 blah. And so they call this number, and that number is really only going to one business. They're not, you're going to get somebody on the end of the line that says, okay, tell us what's going on. We're going to help you place you in the perfect treatment for what's like, oh, you have PTSD, depression, dual diagnosis, substance abuse. I know the perfect spot for you. They're all sending them to the same place. It's,
really?
I'm not going to name them because I could probably get in trouble for slander maybe, but it's one of the big corporate treatment center umbrellas that basically they lie to you and say, oh yeah, we're going to find you the perfect spot. You're going to the same place every single time. And then they get a ton of clients that way. The internet can be deceiving too, 100%.
Yeah.
Don't go based off the looks of a facility. Anybody can open up a nice fucking house on the beach.
Yeah,
right?
is visiting a place before you go.
Absolutely. I highly suggest, if it's a local place and you have the ability, like anytime someone wants to, I talk to someone local who's thinking about coming to us, I say, come in and meet with us, get a feel for the staff, get a feel for the environment. And if you feel like it's the right spot, great, then let's move forward. But always, visit a facility would be huge, right? You can get a vibe of a place the minute you walk in somewhere.
Did you mention how you found the facility the treatment center you ended up in?
A buddy of mine, Hollis, introduced me to the owners when they just started it, and I really jived with them, and I just started working part-time helping clients in the facility. I was worked overnight, slept there with them, and eventually I basically have done everything possible in treatment, right? And now I'm where I'm at, but yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're on time. 56 minutes.
We have 56.
We're at 56.
Well, it's a long rant. So,
yeah.
But just to overview, you're not your diagnosis. You're more than that. Don't fall into just identifying as that. You hold value as a human being. Remember that.
Is there value in a diagnosis though? For
I'm sure with certain people there is, right?
Schizophrenia.
Right? That's what I'm thinking of. These more real acute mental health diagnoses, sure, I'm sure there's value in that when the individual is an adult, right? When if they've reached a point in adulthood where they're still struggling with mental health, because mental health is real, I believe it. Then there's value, but I just don't see the value in telling a 12-year-old that they're bipolar and that they need mood stabilizers. Let their brain develop. You know what I mean? Even 15, 16, give them a shot first. And even if you if you are accurately diagnosed with something, once again, you're still not your diagnosis. That's something that's a part of you, but that's not what defines you as a person. There's so much more to you than a schizoaffective diagnosis, right? And so I just think that's really good to hammer home with somebody, that you hold value and that you're more than a diagnosis. You're a human being, and you deserve the same right to enjoy life as any other human being does. It's huge.
Thank you for listening to the EW podcast. I hope that you found something useful or inspiring from your listen. If you enjoyed yourself, I would please ask that you leave a review for this podcast on iTunes, or consider following along on Instagram. You can find the podcast at the EW Podcast. That's at THEEW Podcast. You can also find all the episodes and some written content available online at www.theewpodcast.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.